I don't get a lot of people who follow along with my lead on this one every year.
All right, Kyle, are we live?
You should be good to go, Mayor.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting on Monday, November 3rd. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and
to the republic
for which
which it stands,
one
one nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember James?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Here.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Here.
Councilmember Polika?
Here.
Mayor Piana?
Here. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. What is the pleasure of council?
I move to approve the agenda as posted.
Support.
Moved by James, I heard supported by Polika. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Leaks May? I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
Here. Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Piana?
Yes. All right, next is the electronic meeting procedures, and we're still status quo until the end of the year. The OMA had been amended for the end of the year, and now I know MML is trying to get them extended again. So hopefully in lame duck session, there will be an extension of the Open Meetings Act so we can continue to safely do council meetings by Zoom during the pandemic surge. And we'll go over the call of audience directions as I move on to agenda item number 5, call the audience. I can't believe there are no presentations tonight. But tonight we have a strict half hour and we have some directions here on how to participate in the call to audience. And I appreciate the resident suggestion who said that we put up a slide that shows how to access your hand raise button. So Kyle. So here's the call-in Zoom number and how to raise your hand with the blue hand if you are participating for the first time tonight on Zoom. The directions are that you can talk about anything on or off the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and I will be timing here at home on my desk. And our city manager looks like Helene Zach has joined us, so we'll ask her to make some comments at the end of call to audience. So we will have Kyle go through all the hand raisers and then ask people on the phone to make comments as well. So Kyle, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Mayor. So far, no one, but we're a little bit early, so at your purview, if we could just give folks a couple minutes. As you said, if you are looking for the raise hand buttons, click on participants, and then raise hand will be down at the bottom.
Usually we have lots of presentations, so I bet people's expectations about when public comment would happen tonight is probably a little off. So no one, what we can do is I can put a pause on this and have, if council would be willing to have our County Commissioner Helene Zach, who is joined, to make some comments while we give some more time to let people join the meeting and see if we can get more people for public comment.
I support that, Mayor.
I support as well.
All right. I saw some head noddings too from Councilwoman James and Mikulski. So with that, we are going to come back to call the audience so that we can see if more people are going to be joining. And we are going to welcome Helene Zach. our County Commissioner Helene Zach to say hello and give us an update what's going on at the county. Hi, Helene.
I'm here.
I can hear you.
Okay. They had to let me into it. Oh, wait a second. They let me in. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm your County Commissioner, Helene Zach, and sorry, my computer is not cooperating to show you. But in any case, while I'm speaking, there I am. Hello, everybody. Finishing up my term as commissioner till year end, but I do want to bring information, remind people that there are still CARES funding grants open. And one of the recent ones that I really love is that for seniors over 60, you can apply for free grocery delivery services through the organization SHIPT, SHIPT. Normally it costs $99, but the county is offering this for free for seniors. And all of these grant opportunities, easiest way to find them is to go to www.oakgov.com /COVID, and you push the grants button and it shows you all of the different grants. And so the grocery delivery is the first one listed. Obviously, the local government partnership program is still open for another week. And I know that Ferndale and the library, people have applied. We still have funding for veterans until December 4th. And I'm encouraging veterans. There's many different vehicles, education, medical, housing, special line item for you. We still, another newer grant that is open till the end of the year is COVID-19 grant-funded legal and financial consultation and training for small businesses. You can get up to, I think, 4 hours of free consultation. We want to do everything we can to help our small businesses thrive and survive during, COVID. There's still open opportunities for rent, mortgage, utility relief, and that is open for one more week till November 30th. And then schools, program funding for school systems are still open. What we're trying to do, we still, without Congress acting, we have to spend this money by the end of this year, unless they decide to extend it. So we're doing an accounting to see what type of funding could be left, and then we'll reprogram it. It's use it or lose it. So, I'm waiting for the accounting so that we can work on that. So I do encourage everybody to apply for these different grants. The biggest project that I'm still working on closure is our former city manager of Ferndale, April Lynch, who's our deputy county exec, is helping us work on, we're trying to create or vote on a new compensation plan for about 4,000 Oakland County employees. And it's been 33 years since the county has really looked at salaries comprehensively. And it's a very big structural change. And this is something that I voted on in 2016. So it's taking years to implement this program. And I hope to be able to vote for it in December. And I think it's been done beautifully, along with that, a severance package for employees. But it's a very huge structural project for the county before. That's what's going on. COVID as always. So any questions for me?
Yeah, how many more county commissioner meetings do you have remaining?
Well, officially, I have one more finance committee and one more board of commissioner meeting. But I would suspect that we're going to need to have some additional meetings to address COVID before the end of the year. And I certainly have retirement board, drain board meetings, things like that as well. And I'm still working on affordable housing.
Excellent. Well, I hope you'll join us in our last meeting in December so we can properly recognize your, I don't know, it's 18 years of service?
18 years.
18 years of service. So please join us at our December meeting.
I will happily. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Good night, Helene.
Good night.
Good night. All right. For those who may have just joined, we had call to audience come up very quickly on the agenda, and we moved on and allowed our county commissioner to come in and give an update. So now we are moving back to call to audience to see if anybody else has joined that would like to make some comments. And here are the directions up on the screen. If you would like to raise your blue hand on your Zoom to show that you would like to give a comment, please do so now. And Kyle, our manager, will also take you in order on phone calls as well if you're calling in tonight.
Thanks, Mayor. So now we have a couple folks. We have former Councilman and Mayor Dan Martin.
Excellent. Mr. Martin, welcome this evening.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mayor, Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. I am here with two hats on tonight. The first, I would like to invite everyone to Ferndale Free Clinic. I'm the executive director there now. And we have our annual dinner on Thursday, December 3rd. It will be a virtual event and safe for COVID, but it still includes a dinner component where with a ticket, you get takeout from one of 5 area restaurants. And we'll have about an hour and a half of programming, switching between entertainment and information status on just how the clinic's doing right now. It's been a very tough year with COVID, but we are, I think, responding very, very well. And we're also going to honor several retirees who have left us this year from the clinic, including our founder and former executive director, Ann Heller. So it's a great opportunity to say thank you and support a great cause, and to have some good have some time, support local restaurants. It's good all the way around. So I'd like to encourage you to buy some tickets. You can find tickets at www.ferncare.org. So that's Thursday, December 3rd. And then secondly, with another hat on, I'm also president of the Ferndale Community Foundation, and our grant period is currently open for local nonprofits with projects within the city of Ferndale. We have an application deadline coming up on November 30th, and the application is on the city's website. It can be filled out. It is for grant amounts up to $2,000 for area nonprofits. So we've funded a lot of great things in the past, from education to healthcare initiatives to public art to presentations on rat abatement. So there's all kinds of great things that those monies can be used for. So again, I'd like to encourage you to, if you're involved in a project in an area nonprofit, the applications are on the city website, and you can turn those in at the city manager's office or email them to me directly, and all that information is on the application. So that's what I have tonight, other than it's really good to see all of you.
Thanks, Dan. Great to hear your voice.
May I ask something of former Councilman and Mayor Martin?
You can call me Dan, yeah.
Okay. Dan, okay. Dan, do you have to be a resident of Ferndale to apply for those grants, or can you be the local surrounding communities?
You can be in the local surrounding community. We'd ask that you be involved in a nonprofit that's engaged in a project within the city of Ferndale, benefiting the residents of the city.
Thank you.
So for example, OSHA is not located in Ferndale, but we funded projects in the past for senior citizens for Ferndale residents. So that's very much acceptable.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Dan. Next, Mayor, we have Mike Flores.
All right. Hi, Mike. Welcome.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Buenas noches. Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Augusto Mike Flores on Whittington Street. As it relates to the capital improvement plan, I was on the Planning Commission meeting where the CIP was recommended to be sent to Council for review and approval. At the Planning Commission, it was made very clear that all budgetary matters were not part of their RACIC card. To be honest, I struggled to line up the CIP projects with a triennial budget. The two documents overlap in fiscal year 22 and 23, so I focused on projects for those 2 years. Can Council confirm if the fiscal year cost totals identified on the CIP are reflected on the approved budget, or the CIP project costs above the approved budget? I'm trying to understand the relationship and the impact of the CIP to the approved budget. Thank you for your proactiveness on the lead pipe issues, but in a similar sentiment as above, the current budget does not reflect any bond debt service expenditures under the water department. If we estimate a new bond to have a similar structure and obligation as the parking structure bond, that is an estimated $1 million yearly obligation. Would this increase water rates for the community? If yes, is there an understanding of this based on estimation models? And before I end, I would like to wish all of you a feliz Día de Acción de Gracias. Happy Thanksgiving from the Flores and Curie home. As always, I look forward to your comments and your feedback. Gracias and thank you.
Thanks, Mike. If you stick around for the regular agenda items, you'll be able to get your answers question from staff because they will be presenting on those items.
Thank you.
All right, Kyle?
I don't see any other hands raised. Last call for anybody who's been thinking about it. No more hands, Mayor, and no call-ins right now.
Excellent. Okay. All right. It is typically this kind of quiet right before the holiday. That's been a trend over the years. All right. So we're moving on to the consent agenda. And I will read the consent agenda in its entirety, and council will make their motions. All right, 6A, approval of minutes of the regular meeting held November 9th, 2020, as submitted by the city clerk. 6B, general employee retired pension plan amendment. And 6C, request to backfill the deputy city clerk position left open due to the pending retirement of our current deputy city clerk, as submitted by the human resource director. And 6D, request to backfill a customer service representation position in fire, open due to the recent resignation of the incumbent, as requested by the Human Resources Director. And 6E, request to backfill a customer service representative position in finance, left vacant when the previous occupant resigned, as requested by the Human Resources Director. 6F, approval to purchase a Tempest battery-powered positive pressure ventilation. Wow, that's some alliteration. Fan from Conway Shield at a cost of $4,950 from account number 101-336-740 as submitted by the fire chief. 6G, approval to pay for emergency vehicle repairs to Engine 5 to Cummins Sales and Service at a cost of $11,396.98 from account 101-336-775-1 repair and maintenance vehicles as submitted by the fire chief. 6H, approval of payment to Frederickson Supply, LLC for emergency repairs to Street Sweeper 835 in the amount of $2,912.68, and the expense be charged to Sanitation Fund Repair and Maintenance Vehicles, account number 226-000-775-1, as submitted by DPW Director. 6I, approval of payment to Miss Dig System, Inc. for the 2021 membership fee in the amount of $4,021.48, and the expense be charged to Water Sewer Fund membership and dues, account number 592-000-958, as submitted by the DPW Director. 6J, approval of payment to the State of Michigan for the Community Public Water Supply annual membership fee in the amount of $5,687.18, and the expense charged to the Water Sewer Fund membership dues, account number 592-000-958, as submitted by the DPW Director. 6K, approval to submit application for the American and Bloom CN Ego Connections Grant to receive up to $25,000 with a one-to-one match to be deducted from the Park Bond account 450-000-977-750, as submitted by the Parks and Recreation Director. 6L, approval to acclaim November as Lung Cancer Awareness Month in Ferndale, as submitted by Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May. 6M, approval of the bills and payrolls submitted by the city manager's office and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. And 6N, approval to extend the Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund agreement for the grant funds awarded to the city of Ferndale for the Geary and Water Park improvement projects and execute the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund agreement amendment as submitted by the Parks and Recreation Director. What is the pleasure of council?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved by Mikulski, supported by James. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
I can't unmute myself here. Councilmember Mikulski.
Yes.
Councilmember Polika.
Yes.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
Yes.
And Mayor Piana.
Yes, and that passes unanimously. And now we're moving on to the regular agenda, which is 7A. First up is consideration to adopt the 2022 through 2026 capital improvement plan as recommended by the Planning Commission. And who has the pleasure of introducing this tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I will be addressing this item. Okay, I'm Assistant City Manager Kyle Paulette, and it's my pleasure to bring to you the 22-26 Capital Improvement Plan. Briefly, I just want to talk about the policy team that works behind the scenes to get this item done. The policy which defines what a CIP is, our work timeline, and then I want to break down what's new and what we've changed in the last year for the CIP, and then open it up for a discussion with council. So to start with, the CIP is a very, very quick process, and I could not do it myself. We have a great team that is multi-departmental who comes together each year to work on this item. I'm very, very grateful this year for their commitment and the work that they've done, considering every single person on that list has a lot going on. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We're also joined with Councilmember Greg Polika, who joins us for the interviews and review of the CIP applications, and also Krista Azar from the Planning Commission, who noted at the Planning Commission how important this is for transparency and for City Council to be able to see what's going on. So I won't list the policy definitions. This is set by state statute, but essentially any large purchase that is physical or operational is included, and then also any strategic items that are over the cost, as you see here. This is a citywide document, and so it touches many of the different funding mechanisms that we use to run city government. Here's the timeline for our project this year. I believe I convened the CIP committee at the end of August, and we pulled together the resources we built up last year to have a very, very quick process this year to get this to you before the December meeting. So now I just want to touch base on some of the newer parts of the CIP, why we included them, and why we think that this is important for council. So you'll see in the packet, we've gone away from the scoring system that we implemented internally to try to capture the value or the objective score of a CIP application. And we've gone to a scoring system based on the program-based budgeting initiative that council has approved and which is currently being built out to be a part of the fiscal year 22 budget cycle. It's not quite ready yet, but we have enough done that we wanted to build it into the CIP process, so when it comes time for budget, you have a direct link, and both documents are speaking the same language. And I think that does inform the question from earlier that the CIP is really a separate document from the budget, and it informs the budget. It gives council an understanding of what may be requested in the budget, but it is not a one-to-one translation, and really never will be, because the asks are everything that the city may need, and the budget is everything that the city can do. And this is especially difficult in a year like this where we don't know what the future holds. So what we've done is viewed the CIP through the PBBI process. And what PBBI does is it identifies the various programs that the city performs to provide core services to the public, or optional programming that City Council has deemed as valuable to the public. So, for example, if we wanted to know how much snow plowing costs, the way that the budget is currently written, you can't look at one line item and know the exact cost. What PBBI does is it puts all of those different aspects into one program called snow plowing that includes the staff time, the equipment, the cost for fuel, everything that would be included to provide that service. And so it gives a much better view of the holistic cost of city servanthood. We have 264 programs so far in our PBBI system, and they're all scored on the 5 criteria you see on screen. This really helps us to rank these programs in the most objective sense, because it's based on if we have to do it, what does it cost, who does it serve, and if we didn't do it, would somebody else be able to do that? So when you take all of these scores, it gives you one score for each program that has been identified throughout the PBBI. Just as a visual, here's the full list in graph form of all of the programs by score. And so what you see here is some of the higher priority items on the left and some of the more optional, unobligated programs. So for example, utilities is the highest scoring item, 100%, 100. No other program scores as high, and that is literally keeping the lights on in the city and providing water service to the city. And then on the other end, we have more optional programs such as Notary Public, Heating and Cooling Center, and various items that are not very cost intensive, but are also not mandatory, and which council has selected to fund. So we adopted the general layout of the CIP from last year, and we updated it to include the PBBI and then also a new priority ranking system. So same as last year, projects are either strategic or operational, whether or not they push forward council's agenda or if they are operational items, which are necessary tools to work through the strategic plan. We asked each department to include the program most closely associated with the with the CIP project they were applying for. And then the score is that 1 to 100 base score for the program associated with the CIP application. You'll note here and in the book that although these all say building infrastructure, which they are, each of these different requests is for a different department and serves a different function for the city. And so the score is based on the function that that building serves the city. We also changed the priority ranking system from last year, which was must have, should have, and could have. And we changed it to vital, assist, and expand based on how important that CIP application is to the program it is associated with. So if a program is vital, it would be a major hit to that program if we were not able to fund that CIP application. Assist is something we could get by without, but it would help to perform that service. And then expand is a new function. Here's just a highlight of some of the tables in the format. Nothing too new or wild here, except that I wanted to include the various facilities requests by PBI score just because I thought the visual was very useful. You'll also note that the water and sewer fund page has this chart with the lead line service replacement, which makes up more than a third of the entire water and sewer budget. It's substantial, and it really highlights the effort that is being made by DPW and with the next item on the agenda, which will play into this major funding initiative. Here's another example of the table structure. Again, just a visual to prioritize and understand the various needs across the city for council to have, I think, a more rounded picture of, what is needed when you all have to make hard decisions come the spring. That's my overview of the booklet, and then I'm happy to discuss any individual items or the overall design and layout, and whether or not this is informative enough or if you'd like to see changes.
Thank you, Kyle, for the presentation. I will now open it up for council questions, but before I do, I just wanted to say that every year the CIP gets stronger and more clear and concise, and this year is no exception in terms of its improvements that you've been able to bring to the process. And I just want to say thank you to the entire city staff members who were part of the CIP process, as well as to Councilman Greg Pollica, who represented City Council on the CIP team, as well as our Planning Commissioner, Krista Azar. It's pretty intense work when you jump into the CIP, and it's really critical so that when council does take a look at making significant investments, that we've thought about it, it's strategic, and we are planning for it and looking ahead. And can you just talk about I'll open it up to questions first for council, and then I'll ask my questions later. So questions from council at this point. Who would like to start? Councilwoman Mikulski?
Thank you. First of all, I love this. The budget-based initiative has really made this contextual, objective, comprehensive. You said holistic. I love that term in conjunction with this. I have some small critiques to help me and help our residents better understand this. For instance, the page that has the full list of Ferndale programs by score. Looking at some of those items, for instance, community engagement, I wasn't able to really figure out what community engagement meant and how it was being reflected on the more detailed capital improvement plan, looking into the general fund or just doing a search on the PDF. I wasn't able to find the corresponding items that would be in support of the community engagement efforts. Likewise, on some of the charts for the general fund, I'm just going to pick one here. General fund fiscal year projects by PBI score, and it's the horizontal pages where we have the bar graphs with items that are shown for instance, facilities. And we have the breakout of those items. They're all the same color and we don't know which one's which. It makes it a little bit difficult to, at a glance, look at the general fund and look at this scoring and figure out, for instance, if City Hall facilities improvements is one of the top scoring items within that bar chart, or if the Kulik Center facility improvements is one of those top items, because there's no legend associated with each bar. And I think you have it up right there. Perfect. But those were really my only critiques. Everything about this is easy to understand with the exception of little pieces that are meant to be more helpful. So if that's something that we can tweak in the future, I think it would be great. It would help with transparency and help with understanding at that high level overview for all of us.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I think those are very fair. And we debated on that full 260 something program graph because you aren't able to understand the programs without the full PBBI, which, as I said, is not ready yet. My goal is by next budget cycle, we have that up and publicly available so you can dive in and understand what those programs are and what they mean. I think, for example, the community engagement, I think that's a program in the city manager's office, which is really just our work that we do engaging with the public in various forums and activities. So that one is not even related to a CIP, but I think it's fair criticism. On the second part, for all of the items but for facilities, there is no additional graphic. The facility one I did break out down here, but it's total 22-26. So I'll take the comments and add those into our post-mortem we do every year. Thank you.
Those are good comments. Thank you, Councilwoman Mikulski. Are there other questions from council at this time?
I can form mine as a question. I think I know the answer, so it might be a little bit rhetorical. But again, to enhance public understanding, it's my understanding that this document sets forth a framework, and that by voting on this tonight, we are not necessarily committing to these exact dollar amounts in these precise budget cycles, but rather this is an intent and a framework for moving forward to provide guidance to staff on what we'd like to see come before council during this time period. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's correct. And the term that we use is a reasonable interpretation of the future needs of the city. So, I mean, realistically, I've done the math on it with the help of finance, and you cannot fund all these programs. It's not fiscally possible. But the goal here is to just sort of show you the priority of the various items. And this year to show you how that item impacts public services so that you can go to your constituents and say, hey, you won't do it like this, but you could say, which would you prefer, this program or this to be better funded? But it's that kind of mindset that we're hoping will be more useful. As for the monetary estimates, some of these are professional opinions, some of them are direct quotes. But when you get further out, obviously for anything in 2025, we don't have a quote for that, and we won't until we get closer to that budget cycle. So it's our, like I said, reasonable interpretation.
Thank you.
Through the chair. If I might add also, I look at this document not necessarily of we're voting on these things and we're supporting these items. Really what in my interpretation is, we're voting on these tonight to make sure that we're not missing anything. That all of the projects and things that we would like to accomplish in the next 5 years are within this plan. And the hope is that we can accomplish them. But really, this document is used for our budgeting process, our budget that we start looking at, council starts really looking at in March. And we can make sure that the projects, we have the details of the projects before they hit onto the budget. So then when we're reviewing the budget, we could say, oh yes, I remember more of the details about this item or that item. As Kyle has said, we're not going to be able to do all of these projects. We're not going to be able to do them in the next 5 years, all of them. But it allows us to identify the things that we'd like to do and to make sure that we're not missing anything that we would like to accomplish.
Mayor, could I make a comment through the chair?
Sure, please do.
I think, as Councilman Polika indicated, it's a good way to look at this capital improvement plan. These are goals, important goals for the city to keep in mind over the next couple of years, but it does not provide authority for any of the particular projects to actually be undertaken. That decision will happen through the budgeting process, where council actually adopts an approved budget. So there is a distinction between this plan and the budgetary approval that council will do early next year.
And if I may also add, it's really a very formal process of what we all do for ourselves individually. If we think about, well, in the next 5 years, I think I might want to add on to my house, or I might want to, redo my roof or add a garage. We don't just, go out and say, okay, well, I'm just going to do it and then just hire someone to do it. We go out and research what the pricing is going to be to some level. We ask friends, oh, you got your roof done? How much did that cost? It gives you an idea of, so when you get closer to the project, we have a better idea of what something's going to cost. I don't know if a car is, well, I do know what a car is going to cost, but some people don't know what the cost of a police car is going to be. So we put this in documentation so that it's not really sticker shock when it comes along that we have to buy 3 police cars.
Yep.
Or a boiler.
I was going to use the same language, Greg, and I just wanted to add, I apologize for not mentioning it earlier, each CIP application can be accessed online. If you just go to the, I think, second page here, and click on the open portal link. And then it's everything that we see as staff as these are submitted.
All right, other questions from council? All right, I wanted just to point out a couple of things. While this is a blueprint framework for the next 5 years, just to point out that we have aging city buildings. And if you look at the facilities investment, Councilman Mikulski has already brought up, but you can see some really needed investment in our city buildings. They're aged. Some of them are from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they're towards the end of their life of serving our staff in a safe and modern manner. For those who don't know, our DPW yard has a sewer drain in the hallway, which has been there for years, and we need to fix it. So, because that's about a quality of life issue for our workers, and so those are the types of things that we're taking a look at going forward. So I just want to say thanks again to everybody for putting this blueprint together. It's every year it serves decision making, I think, and helps council and staff make the hard decisions when wrenches have been thrown in our budget, such as the Great Recession and now the pandemic, and really need to make priority-based decisions based off of what we have the capacity to do. And then some things are thrown into the mix that you don't account for. So emergencies, crises, legislative changes like the lead copper rule, which we are now responding to and incorporating into our CIP. All right, attached to the packet was a resolution that council needs to adopt to accept the CIP.
Does the resolution need to be read, or do we simply move to adopt the resolution?
Through the chair, it would be appropriate just to make a motion to adopt the attached resolution included in the council packet.
Gotcha. I would so move to adopt the resolution attached to the council packet regarding the capital improvement plan.
And I would say from 2021 to 2022.
That too.
Support.
Moved by James, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Lee Snee. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Polika,
Yes.
Councilmember James,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May,
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski,
Yes.
and Mayor Piana.
Yes, and that passes. Next are the appointments to the boards and commissions, and we have 3 tonight. And again, the new process is if you have not, if you are new to the council meeting, is that the first, second meeting of the month is where new appointments are made. First of the month, we ask everybody to get their applications in so that they can be approved at the second meeting of the month. And the first tonight is boards and commissions for beautification. And the first applicant is Ed Ness. And it doesn't look like there are any resolutions here or their term date. Do we have the term dates for them? Madam Clerk?
Ed Minas is December 31st, 2023. And then Sarah Grange and Andrea Popovic is December 31st, 2022.
Okay, and then for the second 2 are for the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission is Sarah Grange and Andrea Popovich. And I think we can do one resolution to catch all of them. But Ed Minas was just recently acknowledged for his gigantic spider in his front yard for the Halloween. What was it called? Hello Boo Fest. What's it called?
Beautification awards.
Bootacular beautification.
Yes. Word. And he has redone his entire front yard to be natural landscaping. And I think he would be a great addition to the Beautification Commission. And Andrea Popoff has been a longtime resident and is interested in helping the city become more sustainable. And Sarah has a background in helping kids learn about environmentalism. So I think they would be great additions, and I'm just very glad that our residents continue to raise their hands and want to get involved in the community.
Through the chair, I agree with you, Mayor. I think they will be great additions to these boards and commissions. And so I therefore confirm that we oh my God, I'm drawing a blank.
Are you trying to pass the motion?
Yes, I am. I move that we appoint the Ed Minas to the Beautification Commission for a term ending December 31st, 2023, and the appointment of Sarah Grange and Andrea Popovic to the Environmental Sustainability Commission for a term ending December 31st, 2022.
Second.
Supported by Polika, seconded by James. And I just wanted to say, I think I see Andrea Popovic as an attendee and didn't know if she wanted to come.
Sarah as well, I think.
Is Sarah in there? I don't see her in the list, but if Andrea would like to say hi, Kyle can let you into the room if you are interested.
Yep, we've got both, and you should both be able to go.
I'll always start with Andrea. Hi, Andrea.
Hey, everybody. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for the opportunity, and I definitely appreciate the appointment. So thanks, everybody.
Andrea, for joining and coming on to the council meeting tonight to introduce yourself. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Sarah.
Hi. Sorry I missed it before. I'm really happy to have this opportunity, so thank you for that.
Well, you know, our city depends on residents lending their talents and ideas, and we appreciate you stepping up and serving the community on our boards and commissions, so thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski.
Yes.
Councilmember Polika.
Yes.
Mayor Piana.
Yes. And that concludes 7B, and we're moving on to 7C, which is the resolution of intent to issue up to $25 million in revenue bonds to fund lead service line replacements per requirements of the 2018 lead and copper rule update. So this is going to be led by our city manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will lead this off, and I will pass the ball to several people who will support the conversation. This item is related to the capital improvement plan, as Kyle mentioned before. There wasn't an item included in the previous year's capital plan and this year's budget process to meet our obligations around the state's mandate, unfunded mandate, to replace all private lead lines within a certain period of time, consistent with the 2018 lead and copper rule amendment. So tonight is a resolution that we are required to publish that declares a notice of our intent to meet our funding objectives via bonds. And so here with us tonight, we have our bond attorney from Miller Canfield, Steve Mann. And he can, I'll just invite him to provide a general overview on what the notice of intent is. And then we also have Bobby Pedzitsky. He is the city's financial consultant and bonding consultant that we use. And then we also have Brad Shepler with the HRC, and he worked closely with Dan Antosik on fulfilling our project plan requirements that are required by Eagle in order for us to move these things forward. So with that, I will invite Kyle. Can you coordinate with Steve Mann and give him permission to just provide a general overview of what the notice of intent is and why we're doing that tonight?
Yep, everybody from the team should be unmuted.
Yes, good evening. This is Steve Mann. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. I'm with Miller Canfield, and we've served as the city's bond counsel for a very long time. This resolution that you have before you is the first step in the bonding process in order to borrow money from the state's drinking water revolving fund loan program or on the open market. You need to first publish a notice of intent to issue bonds in your local newspaper. This resolution provides for the authorization for that notice to be published and provides the form of the notice as Appendix A. Once this notice is published, there's a 45-day referendum period that needs to pass, after which you could proceed to bid out the project and then close on the loan. Happy to dive in any deeper if you like, but that's an overview of the resolution. Before the bonds were issued, they would certainly come back to the council for at least two items. One would be to accept the contractor's bids, and then secondly would be to adopt a detailed resolution or bond ordinance authorizing a specific amount of bonds to be issued and their terms. This doesn't obligate the city to issue bonds, but it indicates the city's intention to do so for this project up to the $25 million amount.
Thank you, Steve. And before I segue over to the Deputy DPW Director, Dan Antosik, to just walk you through the process, the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund process that we began engagement in earlier in the spring in June. I wanted to invite Bobby Budzinski. Bobby, can you just walk us through the distinction between a revenue bond and a capital improvement bond?
Good evening. Thank you, Joe. The capital improvement bonds are issued similar to those issued by the DOT for the parking deck. The bonds pledge the city's full faith and credit on a limited basis, meaning that you cannot raise taxes over above your charter limitations to meet those obligations, but they're guaranteed by the city as a first budget obligation if any other revenues that you intended to use did not meet the debt service requirements. A revenue bond, and those bonds are subject to a debt limitation that the city has. The revenue bonds are paid solely from the revenues of and in this case, it would be the water fund to meet the debt service on the bonds. What we would propose here with the state in the Drinking Water Revolving Fund is we would issue junior lien revenue bonds, which means that if the city should issue what they call senior lien revenue bonds in the future in the open markets and don't have to go or could not go to the state revolving fund, the capital market bonds or the revenue senior lien bonds would have first lien on the revenues of the water fund, and then the junior lien bonds would have a second lien. As I indicated, these bonds do not carry the city's full faith and credit, therefore they're not subject to the city's debt limitations.
And flexibility is an important resiliency benefit of working through a revenue bond. So there are essentially three principal ways that we could explore funding the lead service line replacement obligations through the state's mandate. One would be through the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. The second would be that the city go out to the bond market and use its own credit. And then third would be moving forward through a pay-go or pay-as-you-go cycle, which means we would just diminish our capital reserves in the water account. We would draw off that to meet our early obligations. And so this is really just shoring up the procedural requirements for one of those methods. And that's what tonight really is all about, making sure that we're in process and meeting all of our requirements to make sure that should we choose to recommend using the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, we've met all of our procedural steps. So this is just a procedural step. And Dan Antosik, can you speak a little bit about Can you refresh us about what you presented to council in June to engage the process, and then introduce HRC and Brad, if you could?
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Can everyone hear me fine? Very good. So back in the spring, started working with Brad and HRC on developing a project plan as part of the process for a loan for the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. And back on the June 22nd council meeting, we held a public hearing where we presented the project plan itself for lead service line replacements, in addition to verification of lead service lines in the city of Ferndale. At that meeting, and part of the project plan was an initial $10 million loan from the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, $8 million towards the actual replacement of lead service lines, and then $2 million towards the verification of lead service lines. And at that time, the project plan we estimated would cover about 75% of the known lead service, or 25% of the known lead service lines that we have here in the city of Ferndale. To really get us started, jumping in head first as far as replacements go, and gearing up for what we knew was coming here in the beginning in calendar year 2021, with the state's requirement to begin replacing lead service lines. In addition to really knocking out our verifications, which come due and our complete inventory is due to the state on January 1 of 2025. So this is just working through those steps. Now back in, I want to say end of June, the state actually approved our application for the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. So we've been going through the steps in that process. So you would think it would maybe move a little quicker, but not so much. So over the last few months, we've been going kind of back and forth with Eagle in regards to our draft plans and specifications and getting approval, Eagle making comments, us making comments back. And now we're getting to the portion where we'll be submitting part 1 and part 2 of our application, in addition to publication of the bid advertisement going out towards the end of December, with opening bids slated for January 21st of 2021, and then tentatively bringing a contract award to you, City Council, following that opening a bid, and then an order of approval right now scheduled for February 26th of 2021 by Eagle. And, everything goes as planned, basically getting the loan approved and kind of money in the bank to begin replacements come March of 2021. Pretty much on schedule with what we want to do as far as beginning our lead service line replacements and continuing on with the verification that we have to do for the lead service lines themselves. And then any specific questions that you may have about the project plan itself, either myself or Brad here with HRC could answer those for you.
Okay, and one more point from staff that I'd like to cover before, Mayor, before we open it up for questions, if that's okay. And that's the Director of Finance, Cheryl Stubblefield. Can you speak a little bit about how we've programmed the potential costs for lead service line replacements within the budget process, and how that's factored into water rates that have already been approved?
I sure can. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a quick overview on how we do the water rates. So I look at our revenues, our expenditures, our capital projects that are coming up. And as Dan indicated, we've known all along that once the state issued their unfunded mandate, that we were going to have to, we had some homes in Ferndale that were old enough that there was certainly potential for lead lines. And we were, just trying to figure out what it was going to look like to do the assessment and to change those lines, because we knew for sure what was going on in some of them and some we don't. So as we were getting all of our ducks in a row, one of the things that I did through the budgeting process is we put together about $550,000 each year in the water fund as a capital project to begin doing the assessment and the replacement of the lead water lines. So that's already calculated in the water rate right now that we're paying. So those funds can either go towards making the payments, the principal and interest payments on the bond, or if the bond, let's say the bond doesn't get issued till next year, then we'll have that buffer of what we've already put in the budget and being able to start use that to do some assessments on the lines. So as I said, we knew this was coming down. This is not going to be a new item in the water budget. We knew that we had to kind of just come up with a number conservatively to figure out what it was going to look like. And so that's in the budget for the next 5 years.
Thank you, Cheryl. And we'll have a better understanding of what that true budget number is when the state receives its bid awards in January, if we so choose to go that route. With that, Mayor and Council, I will open it up for questions through the chair.
And we'll start with Council.
I have one which hopefully is easy, low-hanging fruit. Reflecting back on our June 22nd meeting, at that time, we passed a resolution for the application of a $10 million loan for lead service line replacements. And tonight's action, you know, again, this is a non-commitment, but a hurdle so that we have this as an option. But now the resolution is for up to 25 million in revenue bonds. And I was hoping someone could speak to the two different numbers.
Dan Antosik, can you help that? Can you answer that?
Yeah, so I can speak on that one. So the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, that number is still a $10 million loan from the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, as was presented back in June at that meeting. The $25 million number comes from the fact that if you do recall, Council and the public recalls, at that meeting, that $10 million loan was to get us started when it comes to lead service line replacements. And I believe we estimated that with that $10 million loan, 8 of which would go towards lead service line replacement itself, that we would be able to get around 1,200 lead service lines replaced. So what we did in speaking with this and coming up with that $25 million number is looking at what we know today, some of the information that we gained over the past year, and understanding that it's likely going to be a $25 million number to help resolve and replace all lead service lines across the city of Ferndale. And that's why you have that number in place right now. So basically what the intent is to allow us to possibly in the future issue $25 million worth of bonds, but maybe we don't need it all. Otherwise, you know, a couple of years from now, we spend down the 10 million, we're coming back and we're having the same conversation again. And as staff and with our consultants, we thought that it might be best to try and do this in one swoop. And that's why you see that $25 million number. But the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund that we got approved by the state is only $10 million at this time. But we could apply again and ask for additional funding through the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund.
Through the chair, I think it's also important, perhaps Cheryl or Bobby, you could also make an important distinction. The Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund is not a transfer of $10 million. It's a drawdown. Is that correct?
It's a drawdown. Yes, it's a drawdown. And the current rate is 1.875. You are committed for $10 million in the state's fiscal year that ends June 30th, 2021. If you want to proceed and the drinking water program is still available in 2 or 3 years, this is one step that you would not have to do again if you wanted to issue additional bonds for the lead service lines. There's basically 2 steps that the city council has to do. One is the notice of intent to issue bonds, and then the other is the bond authorizing resolution or ordinance, depending on the type of bonds that you issue. So this gives you the flexibility of coming back at a later date if council so chooses. It doesn't commit you to issuing 25. It doesn't commit you to issuing any bonds at this point. The next step in the process is to come back to City Council with a bond resolution / ordinance, depending on what type of financing we do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got two more through the chair, if I remember both of them. And some of this, I think we did cover back in June, but I just sort of want to refresh my own memory and also help get this info to the public. But if we obtain 25 million in revenue bonds, what would our line replacement schedule look like? I know that under the legislation, I think we have up to 20 years. I think these actions are looking to accelerate that substantially, but what time frame are we actually aiming for here?
Through the chair, I'll direct that question to Dan and Brad, and I can just introduce that comment by saying that we hope to establish and finalize a governance policy for lead service line replacements that dictates the methodology of replacement before the new year.
So the original intent with the project plan was to, over a 3-year period, replace from around a little over 400 lead service lines per year over a 3-year period. So 2024, we'd get about 1,200 lead service lines done as long as bids come back favorably and around the numbers that we estimated as far as cost per replacement goes. So in terms of that, and now that we are operating under a requirement to replace 7% of our lead service lines per year right now because of our action level exceedance, that number is a little bit higher. So the one thing that we're focusing on right now is to make sure that we can complete that and get that number of lead service lines replaced, that 7% number, done, calendar year 21 as part of our state requirements. As far as if $25 million is our number, and that's what it's going to take to fully replace all of our lead service lines throughout the city. And I think the 400 to 500 lead service lines per year is a pretty good number to go after as far as replacements go. And scheduling everything around road projects, water main projects, and stuff like that. It is fairly aggressive at what we would go in terms of replacements. So at the end of the day, I can't give you a definite, this is going to be 8 years down the road. It could be a good 10 years, but as far as the state's concerned, they want us to replace on average 5% per year over a 20-year period. And if we're able to knock it out in 10, you'll probably hate the DPW for all the construction notices and work that we're going to be doing across the city of Ferndale. I can guarantee that, but it will allow us to aggressively replace lead service lines throughout the city of Ferndale. And one of the things that we'll be doing, coming here very shortly is building out that replacement schedule and coming forth with a policy recommendation as far as the method to the madness behind actually going about and replacing lead service lines throughout the community.
All right, I've got one last one through the chair, and that is if a miracle occurs and the state decides to distribute some money to municipalities to help fund lead line service replacements, what options do we have if we have already obtained revenue bonds? Are we able to use additional funding from the state to go even more aggressively? Would we pay our debts faster? What are the options that would be on the table in that wonderful event?
Joe, would you like me to answer that question?
I was just about to direct that to you.
Thank you, Joe. It's a very good question. I like your optimistic view that if there should be. But the state revolving bonds are callable at 30-day notice with permission by the state. So, you know, they may or may not let you call bonds. The money that is used, it probably has some, I don't want to say strings because that connotes that there's some type of, you know, something that's not good, but it generally means that you have to do it for construction or something like that, and you can't use it to pay down debt. So, you know, you'd have to look at it as the way I would look at it or answer that question. But if for some reason you could probably speed up the process and, you know, eliminate the lead lines much quicker. Or maybe you don't issue as much debt.
All right, thank you. I think that's all I've
You're
got.
welcome.
Just if I can, Kat, I just kind of want to point one thing out with the revolving loan fund from the state. It's a drawdown. So we don't get all the money up front. We draw down what we need. So if something came up in 2 years from now and they decided that they were going to get generous, we would just not draw down the balance of the loan that we've been approved for.
That's helpful.
If I may, through the chair. So the replacement of the lead service lines, just so I can be clear, would be, the focus would be to replace the lead service lines at residential and city-owned property? Or I just want to know, how would the 25 million be spread if we need up to that amount?
Through the chair, yeah. Dan, do you want to speak just on the general requirements by Eagle?
Yeah, so we're required to replace any portion of a service line that does contain lead or galvanized previously connected to lead. So basically what that means is if your portion of your water service line is identified as lead, whether it's, you know, just on the inside of the house or from your water meter all the way to the water main, that will be replaced as part of our lead service line replacements. And that's also going to help us, you know, as we go through the verification process, we're going to gain more understanding. So, you know, if we have you scheduled as a portion of your service line contains lead, that portion of your service line will be replaced. And that's meeting our requirements through the state. So part of that will be what we know now, and part of that will be what we learn in the coming years as our verifications continue to go on.
So then if I may follow up then, so then that the replacements could also benefit the businesses in this community. Am I to understand that?
If they have a lead service line.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Sure.
So I'm not sure who is going to be able to answer this, if it's Dan Christ or Steve Mann, but 20 years ago or so, we were part of the Coon Drain development, and all the southeast Oakland County communities were hit with a portion of that bill, and a lot of us communities decided to put those fees that we were charged for the Coon Drain, for those bonds, onto our water bill. How is this different than that? Because we got sued several years ago and ended up having to move those fees off the water bill and onto the tax bill. And I just want to make sure that we don't get hit like something again in 8, 10, 15 years because we did this to individual homes, and people are going to say, well, this really should have been a tax, not you know, on people's property taxes and not on the water bill.
Through the chair, I'll direct that two different ways. One, I thought Steve and Cheryl might be able to provide some context on the city's ability to, in the past, implement already and incorporate drinking water revolving loan funding within the water bills. This is not a new practice for the city. So I believe that already, there's a test there. And then second, I think, Dan Christ, you might just provide a general overview of Bolt.
Well, and I understand that this isn't something new that we're doing. However, this is for a subset of the community. The neighbor down the street isn't getting their pipes replaced, and therefore, why are they being charged for my pipes to be replaced? And I go ahead.
I apologize, Councilman, for interrupting you. I was just going to say that the new copper and lead rules have determined that any lead service line that needs to be replaced, and it's a capital system improvement. And so it is distinguishable from, I think, the issue that you're talking about from several years ago when there was the question of whether if you're referring to the question of a tax versus an appropriate fee for service. Steve, can you weigh in at all with respect to the copper and lead service line rules? I know that I believe your firm was participant in challenging those administrative rules, but those have been upheld as a requirement.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we were involved in representing several municipal plaintiffs against the lead and copper rule, but that was unsuccessful at the courts. And I think you're right. I think this is very distinguishable from the Coon drain experience because we are now required to remove these lead service lines as part of your system. We can't individually assess owners, but we can charge it through general rates to recoup the costs. The other issue with the Coon and the reason it ended up needing to be on the tax bills is because of some specific language in Act 40, the drain code, which isn't present in this situation.
Okay, and I understand the specifics of why it's different. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't an opportunity in, like I said, 10 or 15 years for a bunch of residents to get together and say, look, we're paying for all of these lead lines that didn't affect us, affects me, but, and then get together for some group, lawsuit against the city because we should have charged it this way and not that way.
Yes, I understand. That's certainly a very, very valid concern. We think given the requirements that the city's under with the lead and copper rule and the judgments we have in the litigation, we think there are good reasons that you can defend yourself in taking these actions. And part of it, one of the best examples is even though it might be a neighboring line or a line, across town that doesn't affect you if you're a customer of the system, if there is a loss in pressure, then some contaminated water from that lead service line could be pulled back into the system. So there is some public benefit in replacing these lines to the entire system.
Okay, thank you. I hope I haven't given anybody any ideas. The other question that I have is, we've talked a lot about residential, homes, residential units, but we really haven't said anything about business lead lines. Are we using the same practice for lead lines for businesses as well?
Through the chair, yeah, we're required to address any property with known lead lines.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mikulski.
Just a real quick point of clarification. So the 25 million, when we say that this is to replace all of the lead service lines, does this allow for excavation at the curb to find out if there are additional lead service lines or partial lead service lines?
Through the chair, Dan.
Yes, so if those funds are needed to do so, one of the things that we are still in the process of waiting for is guidance from the state in terms of what we're actually required to do when it comes to verification of lead service lines. So with the drinking water revolving loan fund that we originally submitted, we put a portion of that, dedicated a portion of that towards verification itself. And if we find that we need additional funding for that verification, at that point we would leverage some of those funds. But additionally to that, we are working on an application right now for a grant for up to $1 million from the state of Michigan, drinking water asset management grant for verification itself. That's solely dollars that the state has set aside. And very recently, I think there was a webinar just last week on it, and guidance for filling out the grant application that's solely dedicated towards verification of lead service lines. So, you know, fingers crossed that some additional guidance comes out in terms of what we actually have to do for that verification itself. So in short, yes, but hopefully the bulk of that, or the vast majority, will go towards the replacements themselves instead of, and not so much towards the verification of things.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Are there any other questions? I have my question. We've talked a lot about tonight why we needed to pass this resolution. I'm just going to flip it. What happens if we don't pass it tonight? Just for conversation's sake.
Through the chair. Cheryl, can you speak a little bit about what existing reserve levels there are in the drinking water fund? And we would essentially have to fund these obligations through a drawdown of our own fund reserves.
So there's no, if you miss it passing this, like we've missed entry into the program by the state and that's it? You're left on your own? There's no way to access any other money through them or through the bonds?
Joe?
I'm sorry, who's going to cut me off?
Bobby? Who's Bobby? Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
You've begun the process through the state drinking water revolving fund. They have what they call their milestone schedules for funding your project in their second quarter, which is the first quarter of the calendar year. So you would be funded in March, and you could start construction in March, start drawing down money at that time based upon your need for money and construction and discovery of what needs to be replaced. If you miss those milestones, they can kick you out of the program if they so choose.
Okay.
They have a long list of municipalities that want this money, and it is at their discretion if you don't meet these milestone schedules that they can push you out of the program. And one of the things is that you have to have your construction bids, you have to have all of your legal proceedings for the bonds, which this is one of the legal proceedings, completed by early March. And if you wait until your January meeting or don't do it, then the 45-day right of referendum does not expire in sufficient time.
Okay, that was a really helpful explanation. We get dinged really bad if we don't pass this, basically. We lose options to help solve this public health problem of lead lines that were the responsibility of the homeowner replacing them prior to the lead copper rule is now under the city to replace them. And that's what I was trying to make the point of, like, we have to pass this resolution tonight. And I think if I could just sort of sum up key takeaways, because we talked a lot about procedures and process, but basically every city is figuring this out right now that has lead service lines. We're no different than any other city who is older, community like Ferndale, who has put the onus on the city to figure out how to pay for this, and the state has not given a lot of money. It's good to hear that there might be a state grant that help us offset some of the costs of at least for verification, but really we're looking at multiple ways to pay for these lead service lines. But what ultimately, I think, if I may speak on behalf of council, saying that we're trying to reduce the impact on increasing rates in every way possible. And taking a multi-layered look at how do we bring, not just one way to pay for them, but multiple ways to pay for them, where we're still prioritizing the residents and the public health safety, meeting the requirements by the state at percent that need to be changed every year, and at the same time keeping costs low so that the ratepayer doesn't see a significant cost on their bill. This is what we're trying to balance on council and with staff, and weighing our funding priorities. So that's my key takeaways tonight. Council asked staff to take a look at municipal bonds or green bonds. I'm taking that there's green bonds out there as well that help pay for lead lines, which is just another bond. So that's kind of my summary. So thank you, Bobby, for saying what happens if we don't.
You're welcome.
We create a world of hurt for us, basically. Okay. Are there last call for questions, comments? With that, we need a motion.
I move that we approve the notice of intent resolution to issue up to $25 million in revenue bonds to fund lead service line replacements per requirements of the 2018 lead and copper rule update.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May and supported by Councilwoman James. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski.
Yes.
Councilmember Polika.
Yes.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Piana.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for great questions tonight on a very complicated topic, one that we're going to be continuing having going forward into the new year. All right, moving on to call to council. It is 8:30. Wow, we're moving along tonight. First, I will start with Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May. Oh God, third time in a row. So sorry. I always miss the staff updates. I don't mean to. Please, Joe, start with the staff updates. And
You know our value.
I'm gonna go into my corner over here. Say I'm sorry.
I'm going to lead off with Lena Stevens. I wasn't sure if she was going to be able to attend tonight. So, Lena, if you're still here, do you have an update to share?
You?
She may not be. So we'll allow her an opportunity to come
I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I apologize for that. I had my headset on backwards. So I could hear you, but I couldn't put the microphone down. So good evening, everyone. You'd think we'd have this technology all figured out after so many months of COVID, but there's nothing so fun as figuring all this stuff out. So I appreciate how well y'all have been doing, and this opportunity to come before you a couple times a month and tell you what's going on. So again, I'm Lena Stevens, the Executive Director of the DDA, and really the biggest thing I want to tell you about tonight is Unbox the Holidays. We launched last week, and I just could not be more excited about it. In a time when it's really tough to have a shop local campaign, we can't really be doing a small business Saturday the way we normally would. This was an idea that was brought forth by Joy Wells at the Ferndale Area Chamber, and I was so excited when she told me the idea that I literally jumped on the internet and within 3 minutes and bought the URL unboxtheholidays.com because I thought it was such a fantastic idea. And basically the idea is ditch big box, shop local, shop Ferndale. That's it. Easy peasy. All you got to do is maybe do your holiday shopping a little earlier than normal. If you go online to unboxtheholidays.com, you're going to see tons of useful information. The first link is any link we could dig up to anybody that had an online shop in Ferndale, so you can find that. You're also going to be able to get gift cards. We've launched a new program. It's the same platform that's used in Royal Oak and Birmingham called Gifty, where you buy a gift card for someone as a gift. So maybe instead of buying Councilmember Leaks May an Amazon gift card. Maybe I buy you an Unbox the Holidays Ferndale gift card, and you can go spend that at any participating retailer or restaurant. It's not retailers only. And we're really lucky. We got some funding donated from DTE Energy and from Level One Bank, where starting on Friday, as soon as I get everything all situated, we'll be offering a free $25 bonus to every $50 gift card that's purchased. So you'll see that coming out on our social media accounts. Some other fun elements that are going to be under that umbrella of Unbox the Holidays. We have Legacy Days, where the Chamber is going to be paying for a courier service to be doing free delivery within 15 miles of Ferndale. So if you order from one of the participating businesses, you'll get free delivery. Also been working with the Parks and Recs department to do an ornament, so you can pick up an ornament and decorate it, and then we'll put it on our holiday tree. And we're going to be doing a socially distanced Santa parade, and we're working on details about how children can write maybe on a poster and tell Santa what they want from a socially distant, safe distance with Santa. So got a lot of stuff going on, trying to keep people safe, but also trying to, keep the spirit alive as much as we can to keep downtown festive and support our businesses through an incredibly challenging time. So unboxtheholidays.com, help us spread the word, anything you can do. See tons of comments on the Facebook stuff about where can I support local, and you just need to get out there and comment, unboxtheholidays.com. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Lena. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Love that campaign.
Next, we have our police chief, Chief Pelzillo.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So two things. The first thing is I wanted to give you an update on the public safety transparency dashboard that was brought to fruition by the county executive. So I'm sitting on the steering committee with Hillary Chambers, is number 2, and then 5 agencies throughout the county, chief executive officers from large to small. So the idea is that we are going to push out information like arrests and tickets and warnings, along with internal information like training, use of force, citizens' complaints, and other things that are on the public's mind nowadays to kind of show what is doing. What's unique about the steering of it is the issues and questions that revolve around communities in Ferndale on the south end are much different than some of the questions that are revolving around communities up in the north end of the county or some on the west end of the county. So we're moving forward on that. We've had 2 meetings so far. It's a pretty aggressive timeline. We had our first meeting in October. We kind of laid out the basic parameters of what we would like to see. We were given a sneak peek view last week. And what we all realize is that when you just take a big clump of data and don't really put any context to it, it really a picture. So we had to work with Clemens to get them to release some more data points through different filters. So we're hoping to have a dashboard that we can all agree on is a fair representation of the good work that we're doing. And hopefully we'll have that released sometime mid-December. That's very aggressive. It may be at the beginning of the year, but that's kind of what we're shooting for. Does anybody have any questions on that? I think you'll all be pretty happy with this dashboard once it comes out. Second thing is this is my 17th wedding anniversary, and I'm spending it with you this evening instead of my wife. So I want to give a shout out to my beautiful wife, Joanna, who's been with me for a majority of my 25 years, even though we've only been married for 17. So thank her.
happy anniversary, and sorry you had to spend it with us. I've had to do that before on my anniversary, so I completely understand.
That's okay. I do appreciate it because this was a short meeting.
You haven't heard me talk yet.
Wow. I'll hold my comment.
All right.
Thank you so much, Chief, and happy anniversary for me as well. Great to see Oakland County partnering with us on the administration of the data. Next, we have Deputy DPW Dan Antosik with one more comment.
Good evening again, everyone. So only real comment is, leaf season is still here. This week we are on the east side of Ferndale, with next week kind of wrapping up and hitting the bulk piles that are sprinkled throughout the entire city. Now, that does not mean once we're done next week that you cannot put yard waste out any longer. So all residents will be able to continue on with curbside yard waste collection until the week of December 14th. So if you got leftover stuff that we're not able to pick up, feel free to bag them, set them out to the curb, and that'll get picked up by our contractor, Car Trucking. If you got any questions in regards to the schedule or anything like that, please give us a call or visit the city's website and check out the schedule there. And that is all for the night.
Great, thank you, Dan. Next, we have our Director of Community Economic Development, Jordan Forty.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Two quick updates, very briefly. If you go to the City of Ferndale's website at our current project section on the Ayton Woodward project, you'll see the details for this. But on December 3rd at 7 p.m., we have a Zoom meeting where we are going to update on progress made for the human services scope of work for that project. And we're also going to be inviting the public on both sides of 8 Mile Road to pick the design team that will proceed with the physical improvements concept plan. So it'll be a big meeting. We're excited to have it. Check out that current projects page for further details. We'll be posting resources ahead of that meeting, but we wanted to get that out there. Another one coming up on December 9th at 6:30 is the Ferndale Moves and Woodward community meeting. So we're going to be talking about MDOT's plans to resurface, our work to work with the community and community groups to figure out ways to improve pedestrian safety. If you go to ferndalemoves.com, that meeting information is there. So again, current projects on the city's website and ferndalemoves.com. A couple of really important community meetings. We hope you'll participate. We really want your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Next, we have Emmanuel Johnson with some program updates for Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I apologize. Lena actually stole 2 of my announcements for tonight, so it's a little bit of a rehash here. We are doing partnering with VDA to do the Deck the Dot program, the program in which people can purchase ornaments from our Amelia store, which you can find at our registration site. They can personalize them however they want to, and we'll be arranging for a drop-off for people to bring their ornaments for us to hang on the tree at the Dot and various other locations around the city. We also will be doing a socially distanced Santa parade. I can tell you that will be happening on December 12th between noon and 3 o'clock that day. We'll be taking Santa to various locations around the city and driving through some select neighborhoods and everything to allow people to say hi to Santa, wave. We'll be singing some carols and things along that nature. It should be a pretty fun event for the city to get out and be out amongst other people. And we will also be putting out this week the Letters to Santa mailbox outside of the Kulik Center. So if you would like to submit a letter, a list, or whatever you want to write to Santa, go ahead and drop it in the mailbox, and he may even get the chance to respond to you if you're lucky. That'll be all for Parks and Rec.
Thank you very much. And then I'll finish the list. So just a couple brief announcements. One, just a reminder that we will be effectively closed for service on Thanksgiving, the Friday following Thanksgiving. Then again, just a reminder, we will not be enforcing parking on Saturday in support of Small Business Saturday. For those who are getting out, do it safely. We will have a mid-year budget adjustment, just a reminder, scheduled for the December 21st City Council meeting. This was the mid-year that we had scheduled essentially in April, knowing that we would come back with hopefully a little bit more context for the impacts of the pandemic on the budget. I'm sure many have heard by now, but City Hall has been announced to be closed for the remainder of the year. We would expect to open it tentatively on January 4th, depending on how things progress. Our communications director, Kara Sokol, can just, if she's available, can just provide a quick reminder on for the public on where our COVID resources can be found on the city's website.
Sorry, I'm here. Yes, absolutely. So we have refreshed all of our COVID resources online to make sure that all of the most recent building closures, hours, and service updates throughout the city are reflected. You can find that by going to ferndalemI.gov, and everything is right at the top on our homepage for you. And if you want to dive further, ferndalemI.gov/resources/COVID will get you all of the granular details. We've got news updates, phone numbers, contact information, and more. So, and then you can always find us on social media if you've got immediate questions.
Thank you for that. And then finally, we have a Boards and Commissions handbook that is in the process of being developed. I hope to be able to present that publicly and share that with all board chairs prior to the new year, but definitely by January 2021 is our objective. And last, I just want to wish all of any staff that are watching happy Thanksgiving, and the same wish to our community. Have a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you everybody on staff for your updates. And now we will start with City Council, and I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
All right, thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to congratulate Chief and Mrs. Pellizzolo on your anniversary. Thanks for being here tonight. Also, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I hope that everyone stays safe. I know that we're restricted a little bit this year, and we're used to going out and celebrating with friends and family. But this sacrifice will allow us all to be together again, and I just want you all to be safe. So we'll get to do it again. So we need to just adhere to the restrictions now so that we can do that again. Because I wouldn't want to hear about losing any of you for any reason. Also, we approved via the consent agenda the proclamation recognizing November as Lung Cancer Awareness Month. And because I would really like to read this proclamation, because I did lose somebody who was very special to me through lung cancer. And you all may know of him as the former Mayor Bob Porter. So if I may read the proclamation, Mayor Piana. Lung cancer is the leading cause of death among men and women in the United States and in Michigan in 2020, accounting for more deaths than colon cancer, breast cancer, and prostate cancer combined. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there were 4,293 new lung cancer cases and 2,772 deaths because of lung cancer between 2013 and 2017 in Oakland County. The 5-year survival rate for localizing lung cancer is approximately 59%, yet only approximately 17% of lung cancers are diagnosed at this stage. Screening for lung cancer for high-risk individuals using low-dose computed tomography can lead to the earlier detection of lung cancers and save lives, reducing the mortality by 20% when compared to screening by chest X-ray in the National Lung Screening Trial, and reducing the risk of death at 10 years by 24% in men and 33% in women, as demonstrated by another large randomized trial. Funding for lung cancer research trails far behind funding for research of many other cancers, and additional research is needed in early diagnosis, screening, and treatment for lung cancer, as well as in lung cancer affecting men and lung cancer health disparities. Women diagnosed with lung cancer are more likely to be younger and never smokers. Lung cancer incidences and mortality rates in women are rising relative to men. More women die from lung cancer than breast cancer every year, and by 2035, it is expected that more women will die from lung cancer than men. Organizations working in the Ferndale community, such as the American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative and Women's Lung Cancer Forum, are committed to educating about lung cancer and lung cancer screening and working to increase lung cancer screenings rates in Ferndale. Therefore, the mayor and the Ferndale City Council do proclaim November as Lung Cancer Awareness Month in Ferndale and recognize the need for research and lung cancer affecting women and lung cancer health disparities, and encouraging all citizens to learn about lung cancer and early detection through lung cancer screening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, we'll go on to Councilwoman Mikulski.
I just had one item tonight. Since I've had the dubious pleasure of having multiple COVID tests, I want to let people know that there is a free service through Oakland County. You can access that service by going to oakgov.com/COVID and clicking on the COVID testing. You do need to have an appointment. I personally have been going through the drive-through testing. It's free for Oakland County citizens. You need to call 1-800-848-5533 in order to speak to Oakland County's nurse, as well as the health department, and schedule that appointment. It's easy, it's fast, it's safe, very professional service, and you get your results between 3 and 5 days. So I encourage anybody who needs to use the service, please use the Oakland County service rather than having to pay $100+ to a random lab.
Thank you, and I'm glad you are coming back negative. So, moving on to Councilwoman James.
I'm going to echo the sentiments of my colleagues insofar as I think COVID is on everybody's mind this week, especially. I know that personally we canceled our plans to get together even just with one other household. I think we finally pulled the plug on that about 2 weeks ago. And it turns out that it's a good thing that we did, because we have had a potential exposure in my family over the last week. So we're really kind of hunkering down. Luckily, it's been long enough and no one has shown any symptoms. We think we're in the clear. But still, I don't think it would be a good idea to have someone in my house or be in someone else's house, certainly without masks. So I'm really glad that we sort of got real with the plan of doing our own separate household things. And I just share that anecdote because I know this is a really tough decision for a lot of people, especially if you have other folks in your family with diverging viewpoints or expressing the willingness to take a risk. You know, I get it. Everybody has, you know, their own risk assessment barometer, I guess. But the reality is that this is a disease that can be transmitted before the infected person shows any symptoms or signs of infection. So God forbid anyone should wake up on Friday or Saturday and feel that awful sensation having just been together with family. So be kind to each other this week, be thoughtful, stay safe. If you cannot resist the urge to see family members, stay masked, stay apart, meet up on the porch and have a drink. And frankly, you know, everybody is pretty much a FaceTime or a Zoom away these days. And Zoom has lifted its 40-minute restriction on Thanksgiving. So you can sign up for free and chat with your mom and your grandma and your best friend all you want on Thanksgiving. So take advantage and take care.
Thank you. And Councilman Polika.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would just like to say happy anniversary to the chief and Mrs. Palazzolo. And I'd like to wish everyone a very safe and social distanced Thanksgiving. And I look forward to seeing you all after the holiday.
Thank you. And then for me, I just wanted to share a really great experience that I was invited to. I was like a little kid, excited, like, oh my God, I got asked. And I am on the National League of Cities Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. I have been for the last 3 years. And last minute, I was asked to be a mayor talking about transportation to the President-elect Biden's transportation transition team. And I did that on Saturday at 11 a.m. And I'm very hopeful. Every year I'm very hopeful that our Congress will pass a infrastructure package that is meaningful for cities, and every year they let all the cities down. But this year maybe it will be different with a new president and renewed focus on infrastructure. But there are some nuggets in there that I think council might want to keep their eye on. For one, Greg, drone legislation has really moved pretty quickly in cities, and I think you're going to see a lot more drone use in cities in the next year or two. So that's something to keep an eye on. And you won't believe it, but a lot of residents all over the United States are pretty upset about blocked train crossings in their communities, along with train horns. But we don't have the train horn problem anymore, but the blocked train railroad crossings is really heating up across cities, and they're really pressuring Congress to do something about it. So that's something to stay on top of. And then of course, they asked me to participate from a pedestrian mobility standpoint, and talked about some of the needs in our communities in Southeast Michigan. So I was just grateful to be included, and we'll be keeping an eye on legislation moving forward. I then just want to say too, happy Thanksgiving. I think everybody said here tonight about being safe. I just released a video of 2 of last week making some of these announcements, and everybody just make good personal choices to protect your family and your friends, because it protects our community and it will get us through this intense second wave of the pandemic. I know I'm tired of it. I know you are too. We want to be free and, you know, navigate the places that we love to visit without wearing a mask or wondering if we're going to get sick. But I think the end will be coming for us next year with vaccines, but we need to do our part right now to get through this winter. I am social isolating because I need to keep my mother-in-law safe on Thanksgiving, and so I'm available by social media and Zoom and maybe some outdoor walks. But that's about it for right now to get through the holidays. So with that, everybody have a great holiday, stay safe, don't eat too much, watch some good movies. All right, well, take care, everybody, and have a good night. Bye.
Good night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.